Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 307 of the Prancing Pony podcast where, well, an orc with a whip turns into Don Marshall?
What can I say, Alan? Whips and chains excite me, but it's far better than the other way around.
That is certainly true.
I've once again John Mulaney'd the joke and changed it the way Alan wrote it. It is one of my many, many fun times.
It is a
podcast.
skill. It is a gift,
my
friend.
It is. All right, folks, pull up a bench in the common room and join us. I am Don Marshall, the obscure Lord of the Rings facts guy, and I am here with the man of the West who refuses to lay back in my very gentle arms, Alan Sesto.
Yeah, let's just keep this professional, shall we? I'd appreciate that.
You were the one that brought up whips, Alan.
Fair enough. Folks, join us as the torch goes out and Sam sings a song in the third part of the Tower of Cirith Ungol, the first chapter in Book 6 of The Lord of the Rings.
Does that make it a torch song?
Oh, wow. Man, you can dad joke with the best of them now, my friend. Congrats.
I learned.
You've
Thank
graduated.
you. Thank you. I learned from the best. All right, folks, no matter how you got here, you are all welcome here in the common room here at the Prancing Pony podcast. We are reading and talking our way through Middle-earth. There's plenty of speculation and bad jokes along the way.
Clearly, several of them just to start this episode. We love deep dives into the lore. We love discussing our favorite themes and a whole lot more.
We try and keep things light and funny. Think of it like a couple of friends chatting at a pub, and we're really glad you've joined us.
Do you normally engage with your friends at the pub talking about whips and chains, though, Don? You know, wait, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. All right. Well, folks, I'm sure you'll be glad you joined as well, as long as Don keeps all that to himself. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for an intro segment that personally I'm really excited for. It's time to talk about kingly gifts. Now, this segment is all about information for collectors, news about exciting new volumes coming out, as well as education and tips for new collectors just learning about the hobby, publication histories, notable editions, and so on. So if you're looking to get into collecting or just want to know more about a particular book, or you're looking for a kingly gift for the Tolkien collector in your life, this one's for you. Now, our guest this time around is Jeremy Edmonds, who joined us for our inaugural Kingly Gift segment all the way back in episode 224. He's the creator of the Tolkien Collector's Guide website, tolkienguide.com, the premier place on the internet for folks like me who collect books by and about Tolkien. So premier, in fact, that it won the 2019 Tolkien Society Award for Best Website. He's a longtime friend of the PPP, and I am genuinely thrilled to welcome him back to the show. Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to be here. It's been kind of an exciting year for Tolkien collecting.
Well, it sure has.
I know, exactly. And it's getting near the end of the year. We're getting into holiday season for some interesting releases coming out. And of course, you know, what we're excited about today is finally some additional letters coming out. I mean, the Humphrey Comforter's book of the revised letters.
Yes, I am so excited about this. I've been looking forward to this more than just about anything else because it's new stuff. So let's talk about this new second edition of the Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. As of the date of the release of this podcast, it just released a few days ago in the UK, and it will be releasing in the US in just 2 days. The original edition, which was edited by Humphrey Carpenter, who wrote the seminal biography on Tolkien, and was also edited with the assistance of Christopher Tolkien, was published back in 1981. It contained 354 letters, ranging all the way from 1914 to August 29th, 1973, just 4 days before Professor Tolkien's death. How many more letters are going to be included in this new volume, and what else might we expect within its covers?
There's 154 new letters that are in this edition.
Oh my goodness, 50% more.
Over 500. Now, some of these, similarly to the 354 we've seen before, some of them are a paragraph or 3 or 4 sentences extracted from a letter. Some of them are, 8 to 10 pages long in the published book.
Anything longer than letter 131?
I'm going to say no, I don't. It's going to be close.
Some 10,000 word monstrosities like that. That was great.
Exactly. It's significantly longer. Word count, letter count.
Oh.
So it's great. And then there's over 40, I think by my count, there's 45 letters that of the original 354 that are significantly expanded. The edits were made by Carpenter and Christopher Tolkien for space considerations that have been restored. So 45 letters are longer and have new material in them. So we're actually close to 200 interesting new nuggets that are in this edition.
Oh, that is going to be exciting. And I understand. Is 131 one of those expanded letters? Because we know it was actually trimmed quite a bit to fit into the book.
Yeah, it's significantly longer. There's interesting new material in there, some footnotes and things. So it's definitely jumped straight to that.
More stuff for the PPP drinking game. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, what do you know, Jeremy, about the process of getting this new edition to print? So, Humphrey Carpenter and Christopher Tolkien made those editorial decisions back in 1981. So I guess first off, why the change? Why decide to release a second edition? And then as both original editors have died, who's doing the new task of editing?
That's a great question. And it is an interesting process. So Carpenter put out publicity. So letters were published in newspapers and in Amon Hen and in American fanzines saying, I'm putting together an edition of Tolkien's letters for publication. If you ever received a letter from Tolkien, please send me a photocopy of it. Don't send originals. And so
Please don't. Yeah.
So this was from, I want to say it was 1976 or 77 that he started this process.
So it was even before he released the biography.
Yeah, and some of the letters are quoted in biography, and you'll see there's some congruence. Some letters that are briefly quoted in biography are now a numbered letter.
Excellent.
They show up in both. So anyway, coming back, he collected a whole bunch of letters, and he sat down and he put together a draft with Christopher's help, and they took it to Rainer Unwin and said, here's our proposed book. And Unwin said, I can't come up with that much paper. I can't bind that. Can you please cut, let's say 30%, some number, can you cut this down? And so they went back and they edited it down. And then that's what officially got published. And so now what's happened is that HarperCollins editorial team has gone back to that original draft and tidied it. So correct some typos and little things. But this book is still considered to be edited by Humphrey Carpenter with the assistance of Christopher Tolkien, because it is their original draft.
That is fascinating. I'd wondered whether, who's the Tolkien scholar behind this. Is, my brain immediately leapt to Wayne Hammond and Christina Scull as probably the premier people who would do this. But now it makes sense. If the letters already existed in a collected form.
Yeah, and edited. It was a manuscript for publication. And so a few things we could take away from this is, one is none of the letters in this revised edition are from beyond 1980 or so, right? Of knowledge. So any letters that have emerged on the market since then didn't have a chance to be in this volume, even if the current editorial team thought they were interesting. My hope is this book will sell well, and we might get a collected letters volume 2 of things that are newer than Humphrey Carpenter knew about.
Maybe a collector's edition version of the book with additional letters. That'd be great.
Yeah. So Wayne and Christina did do the index for this, and they were involved in this project. And the index should be very useful because they're very meticulous, and scholarly work is always impressive. They were not editors, and my understanding is, other than Chris Smith working at HarperCollins, who headed this project up, they are not claiming any editorial role other than what Humphrey Carpenter did.
Noticed that on the cover. It still listed both just Humphrey Carpenter and Chris with the assistance of Christopher Tolkien. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I wonder if that's the final cover, because somebody had to help put this together. But now we learn this was already put together. This was just a matter of HarperCollins going back into that original manuscript and, like you said, tidying it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to mention a great index, boy, because the first index in the original 81 edition is not overly helpful. But I have a feeling that the one put together by Christina and Wayne will be phenomenally useful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so, the editorial decisions made by Humphrey and Christopher back in, I'll just say 1980 for convenience sake.
Plus or minus a year, right?
Well, if we have to cut so much material, what do we focus on? And the focus was largely on early life and his publishing, getting The Hobbit, getting Lord of the Rings, and late life, right? So that was the area of focus. And what they took out was a lot of personal family material, like letters to the children about relationship stuff and going to school and, trying to help out as they started their own families. And so the material that's being added back in is not more of what we got in the first edition. There's additional topics and more on, ephemeral life events and things like that.
That's going to be great.
The new material is really interesting to read through and see, a little bit more of the personal life of him and his family and his relationship with fans. Because there was a lot of letters obviously included where fans wrote in and said, what does this mean? And, why did you decide to put...
there are a few of those in the existing volume, but it's going to be neat to see more, especially before the fandom became to him that deplorable cultist,
Yeah.
Which I can understand. I mean, I really, it can be overwhelming to have, constant input from people. And I only run a 12,000 listener podcast. I can't imagine writing a worldwide bestseller and having to deal with all of the input in that way.
Yeah.
You've obviously had a chance to look at things a little bit before that publication date of last week. So you probably have had a chance to read all the new content. What do you think is the most interesting for you or most intriguing gem that we're going to find in this new edition? One spoiler is allowed.
One spoiler is allowed. So when you get into the book and you're reading through, be sure to spend some time on letter 38A. This is a brief moment to mention how they decided to number these.
Yes, thank you. That's a question I meant to ask. Absolutely. So how do we fit in with the numbering scheme? Because 131 better still be 131, right?
It is. Absolutely. Okay, all the existing 354 letters have the same numbers. And what they did was chronologically, they reinserted these 154 new letters, and then they alphabetize in between. There's a letter 38. And then there's a letter 39 originally. And this new letter that I'm talking about, 38A, chronologically falls between 38 and 39. So they called it A. And sometimes there's an A, B, C, D, because 4 letters showed up in between 2 previously published ones.
Well, especially if you have a big gap of time.
Yeah, exactly. So 38A, very deeply personal letter to Christopher, talking about family and health and Edith. There's a lot of information on J.R.R. Tolkien and Edith's relationship in there. And it's fascinating to see. It feels really personal. And we, as a team of people who've been working on getting our guide to letters updated because of this new volume, we're all kind of scratching our heads and going like, I'm surprised this still made it past. Christopher approved this letter to be published because it's so personal, and it's in a positive way. That it's not a negative letter in any sense, but it is more than the estate usually pulls the curtains back on family life of the Tolkien. So it's a great read.
That is going to be, I've always thought that about the letters in the first place. I read some of these very personal letters. I think of some of the ones that he wrote to Christopher after Edith's passing, for instance, or I think of that really long one that he wrote to John with, all of his views on marriage and all of this. And, these are rich sources, but they do feel like I'm getting an unfair, intimate glimpse into the thoughts and mind and personal life of a man who I admire. And it's always felt a little like, wow, am I supposed to know this? And now to know that it's going to be even more of that. It's something to look forward to and also to be grateful for, I think. It's going to be intriguing. I'm really looking forward to it myself. You just mentioned something, though, that I really want to talk about. The Tolkien Collector's Guide has put together this incredible resource. It's called A Guide to Tolkien's Letters. Now, I'm having Phil Walsh on today's Tolkien Times, and he's going to be talking a little bit about it as well. But I want to make sure that those folks who don't listen to the TTT get the news from you. Tell us about this project. How can... what sort of instigated it? How did you put it together? How do people utilize it? How do they access it? That sort of thing. Have at it. Tell us about this project.
Yeah. So the Guide to Tolkien's Letters came about just because there's in the last, I'll go back 50 years, 40 years or so, the number of letters that have been discovered and shown up in auction catalogs and shown up from personal collections and have ended up in archives like Marquette and Wade and the Bodleian. So they're known to exist, but being able to do research and find where was Tolkien talking about female orcs, and where did this topic come? So you can jump into Carpenter's letters, and those are pretty well indexed now because Wayne and Christina did do an index for the paperback edition, the second edition, that's actually somewhat functional, and you have a Kindle and you can kind of,
That's
you know,
true.
do an
Yeah.
ebook searches and stuff like that. But for unpublished letters, there's just a vast array of them that are known to exist and really hard to find. And so individually, it's Phil, myself, Andrew, and Chad, and other collectors and people who've been helping us out have been building our own little Google Docs and saved web pages and auction catalog, you know, collections. On one of my shelves is just Sotheby's and Christie's catalogs going back decades. Wayne Hammond's bibliography has a whole section on letters in the back, section D, I think, for in the back of his bibliography for letters. And so we wanted to make a coherent place that's respectful of copyright. So we're not we're not a publisher, and we don't have permission to publish unpublished letters. So the actual letters themselves aren't there, but our summaries of them, cross linkages of where the letters refer to each other and the sequencing of them, and the references to auction websites and catalogs.
So the data about the letters, if not the letters themselves.
Exactly. And they're tagged by subject, and they are searchable. And so you can use phrases of, you know, I ran across this quote, does it come from a Tolkien letter? You can type in that phrase and it will tell you which letter it's in. It won't show you the letter itself, but it can textually match and say, yes, we know the transcript of the letter. It's not published, but if you search for this 5-word phrase and that occurs in one of the letters, we'll say, here's the letter and here's
where it is. You can find it at the Marquette Archives.
Exactly. Archival cross-referencing. So you can say, hey, I'm going to Marquette in 3 months. Show me all of the unpublished letters that they have so that I can reach out to William Fliss and say, hey, can I have a day to look at these 3 boxes of unpublished materials and see if I can get permit? You know,
I might have to make a trip to Milwaukee.
So you can prepare and be ready when you get there to not discover 6 months later, oh, they had that letter. I didn't realize
I missed that letter.
And, so it's really meant to be primarily a guide, as it's named, to help you find the information you're looking for.
Yeah, it's what it says on the tin, folks. Yeah,
it is. And also, I mean, there's a big collector influence to this because we're collecting information, but to try and make it usable, but also pricing archives and when have things sold, and you know, hey, I have a letter where, you know, where should I go sell it? You know, how much should we expect it to bring? You know, so you can see that the information's in there, and we're building layers on the guide to make it more discoverable, and charts and graphs of things like that. So it's a never-ending project. We are at, I want to say, over 1,500 letters right now. Are in the guide itself.
And these are all letters that are not in the either the first or even the second edition of the letters.
Those include those letters.
Oh, they do include them. Okay. That makes sense. If you're cross-referencing them, you would have to have them in the database.
Yeah. So there's about 1,200 as of today, as we're recording this, written by Tolkien that we have in there. So the other 400 and so letters are either to him or not to or from, because we also have letters from, you know, Christopher to scholars in the last 10, 15 years that talk about,
makes sense.
You know, his
history of Middle Earth or things like that.
Exactly. We're trying to keep it related to Tolkien and his family and his Middle Earth creation, etc. And it is sortable and filterable. You can type in really complex queries, say, you know, show me letters that are talking about the Hobbit being published by Houghton Mifflin in, you know, from 1936 to 1938, and it'll just give you the letters that apply.
That is great.
Some sort of query like that. So yeah, it's always growing. We need a lot of help long term. So we're adding, there's a whole framework for discussing letters and adding comments and trying to get the community to help out. And it's really successful. People are enjoying it so far. And
we'll send more people your way. We'll put a link in our show notes for sure.
Awesome.
And hopefully that'll drive some more folks to not only check it out, but to help you out.
Definitely.
And that is a tremendous project. Thank you, Jeremy, so much for joining me here on the PPP tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Same, always. Folks, it's time to return you now to the podcast in progress.
I really hope that some of these letters shed so much light on
Oh, yeah.
the stuff we don't know about. Maybe we'll finally get to know what Tom Bombadil is.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, some of the letters already talk about him being an enigma, talk about him being unnecessary to the storyline. They talk about him being a representation of the Oxfordshire countryside. So who knows? We might get 6 more answers of who Tom is.
That sounds a lot more reasonable, which shouldn't be, but it's Tolkien. So
it's Tolkien. That's what we're talking about, right?
Fine. All right, let's go ahead and get into tonight's discussion. Alan, where did we leave off?
Well, we left off with Sam spotting Shagrat coming towards him, and that's what we're going to pick up. Sam had no time to think. He might have slipped out of the other door, but hardly without being seen, and he could not have played hide and seek with this hideous orc for long. He did what was probably the best thing he could have done. He sprang out to meet Shagrat with a shout. He was no longer holding the ring, but it was there, a hidden power, a cowing menace to the slaves of Mordor. And in his hand was Sting, and its light smote the eyes of the orc like the glitter of cruel stars in the terrible elf countries, the dream of which was a cold fear to all his kind. And Shagrat could not both fight and keep hold of his treasure. He stopped, growling, baring his fangs. Then, once more, orc fashion, he leapt aside, and as Sam sprang at him, using the heavy bundle as both shield and weapon, he thrust it hard into his enemy's face. Sam staggered, and before he could recover, Shagrat darted past and down the stairs. Sam ran after him, cursing, but he did not go far. Soon the thought of Frodo returned to him, and he remembered that the other orc had gone back into the turret. Here was another dreadful choice, and he had no time to ponder it. If Shagrat got away, he would soon get help and come back. But if Sam pursued him, the other orc might do some horrible deed up there. And anyway, Sam might miss Shagrat or be killed by him. He turned quickly and ran back up the stairs. Wrong again, I expect, he sighed. But it's my job to go right up to the top first, whatever happens afterwards. Away below, Shagrat went leaping down the stairs and out over the court and through the gate, bearing his precious burden. If Sam could have seen him and known the grief that his escape would bring, he might have quailed. But now his mind was set on the last stage of his search. And that's where I'll stop, though we'll discuss a little bit more than that in this section.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man. Once again, reading it out loud makes that stuff come to life, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. You see the choices of Master Samwise, and you have to go into the tower, but here's this little choice that you just have to, he's standing there in this small domed chamber. We've got Cirith Ungol, and we've got everything going on right now.
Oh, yeah. And you're right, except that unlike the choices of Master Samwise, where he had at least the luxury of a little time, he's got to make this decision right now.
I feel like, and maybe you disagree with this, I feel like it's not really a choice, right?
No, I think you're right.
You always go towards Frodo. That's been Sam's whole thing for the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
It's less a choice and more, well, because that didn't happen. It's like a bad dice roll in D&D. That guy's going to go get some reinforcements because you missed the attack.
Yeah. Too bad, because I got to go do this.
Yeah.
But as we'll see in a little bit, and we will get there, he still thinks that it's the wrong call, or he suspects it might be at least. It's a very interesting thought process from Sam, but we'll get there.
Yeah. All right. So we pick up where we left off last week. Sam, as I said, sitting in this domed chamber, this tower on the roof of the Tower of Cirith Ungol, when the stairs are completely covered from below.
Right, exactly. The staircase comes up into this chamber, so it's like just a little cover for the staircase. So he'd been listening to that argument, right, that last week that we talked about between Shagrat and Snaga, and then he'd witnessed Shagrat's brutal curb stomping of Gorbag. I mean, it was just violent. And after dispatching his Minas Morgul foe, Shagrat heads towards where Sam is, and that's where we left off last week. Like, now what?
Yeah, and as you've already said, Sam has no time to think. He's realizing, I'm not going to be able to hide here from Shagrat. No. So of course, when in doubt, do the exact opposite of what you thought you were going to do.
I love that.
Yeah, jump out, yell, make yourself a threat. It's like the bears, right? Yeah. Some bears, please don't take any of this as like.
Yeah, I was going to say we are not liable for you being killed or eaten by a bear.
Do not know which ones you lie down for. Do not know which ones you scare away. I think I'm just going to never go anywhere grizzly bears are, if I'm being perfectly honest.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But that means you wouldn't be going to Glacier National Park or Alaska. And that would be a shame because those are beautiful places.
I'm sure they are. I'll
bring you pictures. Not of the grizzly bears, though. So here's the thing. Sam makes himself a threat, like you said. Make yourself look bigger than you are. Sam struggles with that because he is a hobbit. But here's the thing. He most definitely is a threat to Shagrat. No matter how violent and strong and powerful Shagrat is, he is still an orc. He's not a troll. He's not a ring wraith. He's an orc. And here's a guy holding Sting. And I'm not talking about Gordon Sumner. I'm talking about the sword that's glowing blue that reminds Shagrat of this terrifying history lesson of the past, right? The elf lands. I mean, this is scary stuff for orcs. This is a nightmare for him. And then, even though he's not wearing it, certainly, and he's not even like holding it or carrying it, he's got the one ring on him.
Yeah, he does. I often think about like, what's the equivalent of this in this moment?
I don't know if we have one, but I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Is it fair to say that Shagrat seeing a sword that glows blue is kind of like the real world equivalent of seeing a lightsaber?
Yeah, probably.
Like, you know the history behind it, you know what it can do, and whoever's holding it is probably way stronger than you. So, like, you know...
You can wield that?
Yeah.
I'm going to run away. Yeah.
Yeah, and he does.
Bravely brave Sir Robin ran away. Yeah.
Well, and keep in mind, he's running away, Shagrat, because he's eager to hold on to this treasure,
That's
the
the
mithril shirt. And
Right.
he literally uses it to stagger Sam and get past it.
Pretty clever move. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
for
not a
sure.
dumb
I mean,
orc. Yeah.
well, he's not.
Well, again,
terribly
relatively
smart, but-
speaking, I'm not
Sure.
suggesting that he's going to be, graduating with a master's degree in fine art or in literature anytime soon, but he clearly has a basic understanding of combat physics using a heavy, well, it's not that heavy because it's mithril, but using a fairly substantial object in his hands, both offensively and defensively, to ward Sam off and give himself some space to escape.
Sure.
Yeah. So Sam isn't the real dilemma here. This is where he has to make the choice, right? Earlier, as you said, he had no choice. Shagrat's coming towards him. He's got to do something now. He makes the decision to be bigger. But here he does have a decision to make. Do I chase Shagrat so he doesn't go and get help? Or do I try to find the other orc before he, kills my best friend and master? And like you said, that really isn't much of a choice. He has precisely 0 time to consider this decision. It has to be a snap decision. And so we know what he does.
Yeah, he recognizes it's his job, find Frodo, rescue Frodo, but he also suspects that it could be the wrong choice given the circumstances.
And that's the interesting thing. So Sam knows what he has to do and does it, but still suspects it's the wrong call. Doing your duty, even when you think it's the wrong choice, it's a very interesting thing. And it brings me back a little bit to Aragorn, who feels like at the beginning of the chase to catch Merry and Pippin, every decision I've made today has gone awry.
Oh, yeah.
And he feels like, okay, I'm the leader. I have to make this decision, but I'm not entirely confident that it's the right call.
You know the people that always think they're right all of the time?
I don't know anybody like that. Tom.
No, of course not.
No, I'm not. I know people who know me are going, shut up, Alan, that's you. But no, it's not. I know that I'm wrong some of the time.
The point I'm trying to, I think, make is that it is the people who usually make the right decision think they are wrong all of the time.
Yes.
Yeah. The self-confidence of, I know I'm doing the right thing. It almost reckons back to Boromir.
I was about to say the same thing. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. Boromir has a clear thought, a clear path. He knows he's right. He knows what to do.
Yeah.
And he's wrong.
I'm so right that I know I have the privilege and the responsibility of taking that ring from you, Frodo. No, you don't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you're right. There's something sort of contradictory with the overweening pride. I'm going to say overmode.
Oh, sure.
Of somebody like a Boromir in that moment versus the humility of somebody like an Aragorn, a Faramir, or a Sam.
Yeah. We get this kind of tiny glimpse into Shagrat's escape with the treasure, the mithril shirt, and the idea that Sam would quail, knowing the grief this would cause.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the mouth of Sauron at the Black Gate. Like, if you told Samwise Gamgee, hey, by the way, this is more or less going to make all of your friends and loved ones charge headlong into certain death.
They think Frodo's dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty sure. I mean, Pippin especially sees that and just gasps, remember? But of course, this gives me an excuse to read that moment because it was last season. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think Matt read this last season. So yeah, I'm going to do this.
All right.
Then thou art the spokesman, old greybeard? Have we not heard of thee at whiles, and of thy wanderings, ever hatching plots and mischief at a safe distance? But this time thou hast stuck out thy nose too far, Master Gandalf, and thou shalt see what comes to him who sets his foolish webs before the feet of Sauron the Great. I have tokens that I was bidden to show to thee in especial, if thou shouldst dare to come. He signed to one of his guards, and he came forward bearing a bundle swathed in black cloths. The messenger put these aside, and there, to the wonder and dismay of all the captains, he held up first the short sword that Sam had carried, and next a gray cloak with an elven brooch, and last the coat of mithril mail that Frodo had worn, wrapped in his tattered garments. A blackness came before their eyes, and it seemed to them that the world stood still, but their hearts were dead, and their last hope gone. Oh, man, yeah, I think Sam would regret his decision. I mean, it's the right one, but you can still regret making the right decision.
If Samwise Gamgee is known for one thing, it is being kind to people and not hurting them. And so for his actions, however well-intentioned they may be, to cause someone else pain, I can't imagine, I'm sure Pippin told them that story way later on.
I hope he was a little gentle about it. Like, oh, you wouldn't believe I thought Frodo was dead.
That actually sounds a lot more like Pippin.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Also, quick sidebar on Shagrat. Yes, he managed to get the mithril shirt to Barad-dûr, but it does not work out very well at all.
No, it doesn't.
Both in the Tale of Years, in the appendices, and the chronology, it says that Shagrat brought his treasure to the Dark Tower on March 17th, which is 3 days from now. And chronology adds some detail. Shagrat brings the mithril coat and the other spoils to Barad-dûr, but is slain by Sauron.
Ooh, dum dum dum.
You ever go to your boss to try and get a promotion and you get fired instead?
Usually not killed, though. Usually not killed.
No, well, that would be breaking the law, and Mordor is not known for its lawfulness, shall we say.
No, its human resources department is woefully understaffed.
I'm pretty sure that's just the Witch King, and he's dead now, so you've got like
That's
8
true.
others just like, well, the boss is out for a few days. I guess we can do whatever we want.
When the cat's away.
Does anyone know the respawn time on the Nazgul?
On the Nazgul? Respawn time? I don't know. That's a very good question. I mean, I would imagine it's quite the cooldown bar.
Yeah, well, I mean, we see them again.
I mean, after they get dehorsed and decloaked, I suppose, right?
Yeah, that was October, 21st?
That sounds right. They flee back to Sauron. Then when are they seen crossing the river again? I don't know. And then
I don't know if they are seen crossing the river. I think that might just be when Frodo and
Sam when
when
Tolkien says they cross the river, right? In the chronology.
Right.
I'd have to check that. That might be something to come back for on the P5, even though it's totally unrelated to the content of this chapter.
What am I here for if not to take us way off course into speculation?
That's what we do, man. That's what we've done here on this show for 7+ seasons. Yeah.
All right.
So much for a promotion. Poor Shagrat. I have a feeling, by the way, that Shagrat caught that trouble because he was literally the only one left. The only one. And so by the time he gets there, the message has been delivered to Sauron via a Nazgul who shows up after the Watchers are broken at the end of next episode. He shows up, sees what happened, sees all the dead orcs, and then comes and says to Sauron, well, the orcs, they all just killed each other. Your slaves, once again, did the wrong thing. So then when Shagrat shows up, he's like, well, I heard all the orcs from the tower were dead, so we're just going to solve that right here.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're still alive. Anything to say for yourself? Yeah. Solve that problem. I have a problem with you being alive.
With your mere existence, Shagrat.
We're just going to erase that.
So back to Sam, right? He's on the last stage of his search, and this is just the part we skipped. He gets to the door of that turret, and it's dark, but there is a dim light to his right.
Yet he sees an opening and another winding stair, and he sees that a torch is lit
Indeed. It is lit. And we're going to follow Sam as he goes and tracks that down just after this. Now, folks, we're going to go ahead and get back to the last stage of Sam's search. But before we do, we want to remind you that there's a lot more talk going on at the Prancing Pony podcast than just us.
And even though we talk a lot, and thank you so much for listening, the PPP has an amazing listener community. They're always coming up with great questions, great memes, and discussions across our social media spaces. You can check out our common room on Facebook, our dedicated subreddit, Twitter, and more.
That's right. Now, if you do go on Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony podcast. Easy enough. Follow the page to get the news and releases of the episodes, but you're going to want to join the group to get involved in some great discussions.
But if you prefer another type of social media, so if you're on Reddit, you can find us there at r/Prancing Pony Pod, or on X, Twitter.
Yeah.
Or Instagram, we are simply at Prancing Pony Pod.
That's correct. And if you want daily Tolkien content, please check out Today's Tolkien Times on YouTube and all your favorite podcast apps. It's my new short format daily show with everything from Tolkien Tuesday to Silmarillion Saturday. Be sure to check it out at youtube.com/@TolkienTimes and follow @TolkienTimes on all your social media. Now, Don, would you pick us up with that glimmering torch and Sam's apparently fruitless search?
I certainly can. A dead end, muttered Sam. And after all my climb, this can't be the top of the tower. But what can I do now? He ran back to the lower story and tried the door. It would not move. He ran up again, and sweat began to trickle down his face. He felt that even minutes were precious, but one by one they escaped, and he could do nothing. He cared no longer for Shagrat or Snaga or any other orc that was ever spawned. He longed only for his master, for one sight of his face or touch of his hand. At last, weary and feeling finally defeated, he sat on the step below the level of the passage floor and bowed his head into his hands. It was quiet, horribly quiet. The torch, that was already burning low when he arrived, sputtered and went out, and he felt the darkness cover him like a tide. And then softly, to his own surprise, there, at the vain end of his long journey and his grief, moved by what thought in his heart he could not tell, Sam began to sing. His voice sounded thin and quavering in the cold, dark tower, and the voice of a forlorn and weary hobbit that no listening orc could possibly mistake for the clear song of an elven lord. He murmured old childish tunes out of the Shire, and snatches of Mr. Bilbo's rhymes that came into his mind like fleeting glimpses of the country of his home. And then suddenly, new strength rose in him, and his voice rang out, while words of his own came unbidden to fit the simple tune. And we are skipping the first half, but we continue. Though here at journey's end I lie in darkness buried deep, beyond all towers strong and high, beyond all mountains steep, above all shadows rides the sun, and stars forever dwell, I will not say the day is done, nor bid the stars farewell. Beyond all towers strong and high, he began again, and then he stopped short. He thought he had heard a faint voice answering him. Before we get even further on, can I just very briefly say, there are many accounts of the British Expeditionary Force, the best
early,
of the best.
The early combat fighters that arrived really before England was involved in the war.
Yeah, pretty much. They, and many that followed beyond that, sang songs there. And one of the things that I think is so important about this scene in particular is he starts singing again.
Yes.
And there's a really great song in World War I that is so simple that it just goes, we're here because we're here. And that keeps going and going and going. And I'm always reminded
it's the song that doesn't end.
It doesn't. And in the same way, Sam just singing this short little ditty. It sets my little history nerd heart ablaze. It's great.
I love that. Well, we're going to go back, not just to the beginning of the part you read, but to the part that we skipped, right? So Sam climbs the stairs. He reaches the torch, which is described in the text as guttering. And that's an interesting word. So just want to tell you all what that means. It's a verb to gutter, and it's used typically to refer to a candle or flame that is flickering and burning unsteadily. So that tells you kind of where we're at in the life of this torch.
Not far to go before it's gone. And he realizes that he is now at one of the red eyes that Frodo could see from so far down below. He is very high up in this tower.
Yeah, that's right. So when they got out of Shelob's lair, they looked up and they could see that tower, and they could see the red eyes in the tower. They were afraid of being watched. He now realizes, I'm in one of those eyes. That's how high up this tower I am. But he does go past that door, the door to where that red eye is, and he keeps going up. But this whole time he is in deep fear of being attacked. Like, this is, the adrenaline must be pumping.
Yeah, it's kind of feeling to the point now where, like, had you looked at Sam 6 months ago?
Oh, yeah.
You know, 8 months ago, a year, well, gardener in the Shire, no chance. But this is a very different Hobbit. He finds the passage through the center of that turret with the door and the torchlight, but the passage is a dead end. The stair stops and the two doors are locked and totally silent.
And that's weird, right? I mean, I know when I'm trying to read that, I have a real hard time sort of visualizing this layout. But I have to say that Karen Wynne Fonstadt, in her amazing and absolutely shelf-worthy Atlas of Middle-earth, did a fantastic job of conveying the layout of this tower. If you don't have that book, you should, and I'll make sure that there is a link for it in the show notes.
All right, now back to the part I read. Sam makes the observation, it's a dead end. And he wonders, what do I do now? And he tries going back down to the first floor to the turret, but once again, no luck.
Exactly. And once again, just like with his previous decisions, time is the biggest enemy here. The text describes the minutes as having escaped, while Sam can do absolutely nothing to stop them from doing it. And here's the thing. He's not worried anymore about the orcs. I love the way the text puts it. He doesn't care about Shagrat or Snaga or any orc ever spawned. I love that word, right? It's not born, it's spawned. He just wants to see Frodo. That's all he wants.
Yeah. And then we finally hit what I see. And I often think of this as perhaps the darkest moment in The Lord of the Rings, even though it's maybe not the scariest or the most, full of terror or fear.
Right. I mean, the dark moments in Shelob's lair are far more terrifying.
Sure. There's a primal fear that you can have against a big sort of apex predator. But this is the despair, that darkness inside you. Sam's darkest moment, finally defeated. And that is, he's feeling that defeat, and he sits down on the stairs with his head in his hands.
The way the text says this, feeling finally defeated. It's not like, well, finally he's feeling defeated. He is feeling like this is the final defeat. This is it. There is no coming back from this. I can't find Frodo. I no longer have a purpose. I am going to be killed by the orcs when Shagrat gets help and comes back. There's nothing for me to do. I'm just going to sit here and put my head in my hands. And this horrible quiet that he is sitting in, right, is now amplified by a similar horrible darkness when the torch goes out. I think there's very obvious metaphor going on here. That the darkness is now literally surrounding and enveloping Sam, but it's also in him. The darkness of defeat is in him at this point. And I think for our own sake as readers, we sort of need to sit in this moment for a bit like Sam, right? He can't find Frodo. He is alone. He is in the most terrible place, really, aside from Barad-dûr or maybe Mount Doom itself. And it's horribly quiet. And now the darkness covers him like a tide. I think putting ourselves in his position before he begins to do what he does next really changes how we view what he does, right?
And it also, you saying that has jogged my memory, of course, because what did Samwise Gamgee do when he followed Frodo, but he almost drowned?
Yeah.
There's this wonderful moment that he has in the darkness, the darkest of moments, the vain end of his struggle and his grief. He does what so many Tolkien characters do. He is moved to song.
And so often It is what feels almost like an external force doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Something beyond himself. And his voice, of course, does not start out strong at all. He doesn't start out by singing In Western Lands Beneath the Sun. He starts out as a forlorn and weary hobbit singing kids' songs from the Shire and old bits and pieces of Bilbo's rhymes.
And he finds himself, as he is singing stronger, and we finally reach this beautiful verse, and
It is fantastic. But this wasn't the original version, and I want to shed some light on that because the earlier version that we find in Sauron Defeated, which is Volume 9 of the History of Middle-earth, the third verse of this hits really hard. But still I sit and think of you. I see you far away, walking down the homely roads on a bright and windy day. It was merry then when I could run to answer to your call, could hear your voice or take your hand, but now the night must fall. And now beyond the world I sit and know not where you lie. Oh, master dear, will you not hear my voice before we die? Oh, my heart, Sam.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot less hopeful, a lot more poignant and sorrowful, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sorrowful. That's so much more sorrowful.
So heavy. Will you not hear my voice before we die?
Before
Sam,
and it's before we
heart.
die, not I die. It's like, we're going down together. There's no chance that you're going to live, at least.
No, of course
We're
not.
Both
I mean,
gone. Yeah.
There's an orc somewhere in this tower who knows how to find you. I don't. He's going to find you and kill you, and he'll probably find and kill me too. And if not, I'll just wait for Shagrat. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that is rough.
Brutal stuff.
Shall we read the published version?
I think,
it's
the ending of this is fantastic, isn't it?
some hopeful stuff. Thank you. Above all shadows rides the sun, and stars forever dwell. I will not say the day is done, nor bid the stars farewell.
Oh, that is such a much more hopeful ending, isn't it?
Really is. And it also, keep in mind, it foreshadows a moment that I believe the next chapter, we see Sam realize that the darkness, no matter how dark it is a small and passing thing compared to the stars beyond. Perhaps one of the best moments in the trilogy.
Yes, absolutely. It is one of my favorite passages in all of the Lord of the Rings, and you bringing it up just justifies me reading the whole passage, even though we're going to read it in a few weeks. Then at last, to keep himself awake, Sam crawled from the hiding place and looked out. The land seemed full of creaking and cracking and sly noises, but there was no sound of voice or a foot. Far above the Ephel Duath in the west, the night sky was still dim and pale. There, peeping among the cloud rack above a dark tor high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up out of the forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that in the end, the shadow was only a small and passing thing. There was light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. His song in the tower had been defiance rather than hope, for then he was thinking of himself. Now, for a moment, his own fate and even his master's ceased to trouble him. He crawled back into the brambles and laid himself by Frodo's side, and putting away all fear, he cast himself into a deep, untroubled sleep. Oh, Sam. I love that. And I don't think I realized until I started to read that passage and got towards the end of it, that not only does this moment foreshadow that one, that moment references this one.
Yep.
His song in the tower had been defiance rather than hope.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I love that moment. I love that
so
moment. It's
beautiful.
Alan, I don't know if you've ever had a contemplative moment among, stars when light pollution here in the U.S. is just, if you can get out into the right place, you can see the Milky Way.
Mono Lake up in the high Sierras in October. I've done this before, these fall colors photo shoots that I've done. We do night shoots outside Mono Lake, and it is so far from anything remotely resembling civilization. It's stunning. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is Maine. There's a lake up in Maine I vacationed with my family many years ago.
Fantastic.
And you can just, it's the equivalent of, I always equate this moment to the very human feeling that I think many people have felt.
Mm-hmm.
We are just very tiny beings on a very tiny rock, hurtling through a very big part of space.
It's that moment in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where you know exactly where I'm going, right? I can't remember what it's called, but the device basically shows you the entirety of the universe and a teeny tiny little arrow and a teeny tiny dot saying you are here. Yeah. And it totally blows your mind and renders you completely functionally insane. Yeah. Total perspective vortex. I remembered its name now.
Wow. Nicely done.
Yeah. On Frogstar B, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. You are such a nerd.
I really am. I haven't read that in a decade though, so please don't quote me on that.
I wouldn't dream of it, Alan. but being the hobbits that we are hurtling through space, we also, we get this, we're filled with this sense of hope.
Yeah.
It matters because we think it matters. And in that same way, Sam is taking that thought process and he begins to sing and he thinks, oh my gosh, this is death. This is the end. But no, I've got a little bit of hope left. And then he goes on to see the stars and there's this beautiful moment. And then, of course, as he begins to sing more, as we go back to sort of the actual part that we're reading, he thinks he hears a quiet voice in response.
Yeah.
We are going to find out later. He actually did. Frodo will say, then I wasn't dreaming after all when I heard that singing down below and tried to answer. That was that's the part where you go, oh yeah, this is it.
Yeah. And so it even brought Frodo a little hope.
Yeah. Orcs don't know that. Orcs don't know that song for sure.
So this idea, though, of singing in a way to sort of find the other person, Hammond and Skull tell us this particular bit of the story was surely inspired by the legend of King Richard I, Richard the Lionhearted of England, who was taken prisoner while returning from the Crusades.
According to a version of the story, his minstrel, Blondel de Nel, went from castle to castle singing a particular song that only he and Richard knew. And when Richard replied with the second verse, his location was known, and Blondel aided his escape, or, depending on the version of the story, reported his position back to his friends.
Right.
But keep in mind, this is not the only time, right, that Tolkien has used song to reveal the location of something important to the singer.
No.
Oh, such a classic theme.
It really is.
So
and both moments that I'm thinking of go back to the Silmarillion. And the first is when Fingon sings in order to find where Maedhros has been chained to Thangorodrim. Then Fingon the Valiant, son of Fingolfin, resolved to heal the feud that divided the Noldor before their enemy should be ready for war. For the earth trembled in the Northlands with the thunder of the forges of Morgoth underground. Long before, in the bliss of Valinor, before Melkor was unchained or lies came between them, Fingon had been close in friendship with Maedhros. And though he knew not yet that Maedhros had not forgotten him at the burning of the ships, the thought of their ancient friendship stung his heart. Therefore, he dared a deed which is justly renowned among the feats of the princes of the Noldor. Alone, and without the counsel of any, he set forth in search of Maedhros. And aided by the very darkness that Morgoth had made, he came unseen into the fastness of his foes. High upon the shoulders of Thangorodrim he climbed, and looked in despair upon the desolation of the land. But no passage or crevice could he find, through which he might come within Morgoth's stronghold. Then, in defiance of the orcs, who cowered still in the dark vaults beneath the earth, he took his harp and sang a song of Valinor, that the Noldor made of old, before strife was born among the sons of Finwë. And his voice rang in the mournful hollows that had never heard before aught save cries of fear and woe. Thus Fingon found what he sought, for suddenly above him, far and faint, his song was taken up, and a voice answering called to him. Maedhros it was that sang amid his torment. I love that.
Love that scene.
Absolutely love that.
That scene. You gave me the Baron and Luthien one for a reason.
I sure did.
You know it's my favorite. It's my favorite.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's so good.
It was a tough call. I really was flipping a coin here. Like, do I take the Baron and Luthien one? No.
I appreciate it. This is, for those that are maybe unaware, Baron and Luthien is perhaps my favorite story in the entirety of all of Tolkien's Legendarium.
It's a beauty.
The OG Aragorn and Arwen, if you will.
Absolutely right. Yes.
This second example is when Luthien sang outside where Beren was being held hostage in Tol in Garhoth.
Yep.
And Beren heard the song and sang back a song of challenge. Now keep in mind, for those that maybe don't know the story, this is after the elf Finrod Felagund sacrificed himself to kill the werewolf sent by Sauron to kill Beren. Beren, who, much like Sam, is now alone in this tower, is mourning next to Finrod. In that hour, Luthien came, and standing upon the bridge that led to Sauron's Isle, she sang a song that no walls of stone could hinder. Beren heard, and he thought that he dreamed, for the stars shone above him, and in the trees nightingales were singing. And in answer, he sang a song of challenge that he had made in praise of the 7 stars, the sickle of the Valar, that Varda hung above the north, as a sign for the fall of Morgoth. Then all strength left him, and he fell down into darkness. But Luthien heard his answering voice, and she sang then a song of greater power. And then she transforms herself into this cloak and the dog and the talking dog, and there's a big werewolf fight. And please go listen or read the Silmarillion. This is just my pitch.
That's right. Sauron comes out and he ends up doing the whole shape-shifting thing. And it's really cool. If nothing else, just read the chapter of Beren and Luthien. It's fine. Everybody fantastic stuff. But if you once you read that, then you're going to want to read the full book version that Christopher Tolkien published. What a nightmare. 17, I think it was, that one came out. Children of Hurin was the first one. That was 07, I think.
Yes.
And then it was Beren and Luthien in 2017, and then Fall of Gondolin in 2018, I believe.
And then Fall of Numenor.
That was just last year. That was just
it
2022, I believe. Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
That's a little different because it's not one of the great tales. It's sort of a really, I think, a fantastic way of assembling the story. I think Brian Sibley did such a great job with this. He basically took all the sources that related to the Second Age and put them in a chronological timeline. So you're able to read and take these historical moments and put them in context with, which Numenorean king was in charge, what was happening elsewhere at the same time. I love it.
Me too. It's like the extended edition, but for the books.
Exactly. It's good stuff.
Right, we're a little far off topic, but I was fangirling over my favorite elf of all time.
That's fair. You can do that.
Carry on, Alan.
I will. I'm going to go ahead and pick up exactly where you left off.
Go for it.
But now he could hear nothing. Yes, he could hear something, but not a voice. Footsteps were approaching. Now a door was being opened quietly in the passage above. The hinges creaked. Sam crouched down, listening. The door closed with a dull thud, and then a snarling orc voice rang out. "Hola, you up there, you dummy old rat. Stop your squeaking, I'll come and deal with you. Do you hear?" There was no answer. "All right," growled Snaga, "but I'll come and have a look at you all the same and see what you're up to." The hinges creaked again, and Sam, now peering over the corner of the passage threshold, saw a flicker of light in an open doorway and the dim shape of an orc coming out. He seemed to be carrying a ladder. Suddenly, the answer dawned on Sam. The topmost chamber was reached by a trap door in the roof of the passage. Snaga thrust the ladder upwards, steadied it, and then clambered out of sight. Sam heard a bolt drawn back. Then he heard the hideous voice speaking again. "You lie quiet or you'll pay for it. You've not got long to live in peace, I guess. But if you don't want the fun to begin right now, keep your trap shut, see? There's a reminder for you." There was a sound like the crack of a whip. At that, rage blazed in Sam's heart to a sudden fury. He sprang up, ran, and went up the ladder like a cat. His head came out in the middle of the floor of a large round chamber. A red lamp hung from its roof. The westward window slit was high and dark. Something was lying on the floor by the wall under the window, but over it a black orc shape was straddled. It raised a whip a second time, but the blow never fell. With a cry, Sam leapt across the floor, sting in hand. The orc wheeled round, but before it could make a move, Sam slashed its whip hand from its arm. Howling with pain and fear, but desperate, the orc charged head down at him. Sam's next blow went wide, and thrown off his balance, he fell backwards, clutching at the orc as it stumbled over him. Before he could scramble up, he heard a cry and a thud. The orc, in its wild haste, had tripped on the ladder head and fallen through the open trap door. Sam gave no more thought to it. He ran to the figure huddled on the floor. It was Frodo. It was Frodo!
Finally.
Alive or dead? We'll find out.
Well,
Film at 11.
you know, hey, I'm the former journalist.
I
That's my
know,
line.
exactly.
I think, though, this is meant to give you some hope because he could have very just as easily said it was Frodo's body. Or it was Frodo's unmoving body.
Yeah.
Or
it appeared to be the corpse of Frodo. Yeah.
There's so many ways you could phrase that.
It was Frodo lying in a pool of his own blood with his head lying next to him.
Well, gruesome.
Lying next to his own severed head. That was from what? Highlander, right?
Oh, gosh. Was it?
I think so. Something I can't remember the exact line, but
it's been a while since I.
Yeah.
Anyway, so going back a little bit.
Forever. All right. Sorry.
We interrupt this musical podcast to bring you the Lord of the Rings portion.
We digress, or I digress. And if it leads to me singing 1980s Queen songs, then I'm going to do that because that's just how I roll.
To Jordan, our editor, you don't have to keep. Listen, I'm just saying you don't have to keep everything in. You just cut sometimes the stuff we tell you. It doesn't necessarily need to be that way. You can use your discretion on this one. I give you that permission. Anyway, I digress. Back to that answering voice.
Yes.
Surprise. It's Frodo.
Yeah.
However, the voice is quickly drowned out by the footsteps. And as well, there's another indication. The door is being opened and the hinges are creaking, which is just a classic horror movie.
It is. It is classic horror movie stuff, isn't it? It's just a reminder of what a good horror writer Tolkien is. So Sam listens, right? He hears the door close. He hears the voice of that angry orc, which I'm going to be honest, it probably didn't sound anything like the Snaga I did last week. I apologize. I'm sorry. I don't keep a catalog of orc voices. But typical orc threats, right? Followed by Snaga accidentally revealing the way to the chamber where Frodo is being held. I love that.
Oops. Oopsie daisy. Yeah, he's carrying a ladder, causing Sam to finally figure out the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trap door on the roof, of course. Yeah. It's literally, the answer is literally appearing above his head, both metaphorically and realistically.
Nicely done, sir.
Thank you. And of course, Snaga, very conveniently, might I add, has access to that trap door right now. This feels very much like a dungeon master in D&D. When you roll the natural 20, it's like, there's the enemy. Oh, and I'm not going to make you look for the ladder. He's carrying a ladder.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly. Now, Snaga, of course, at this point is clearly not worried about an elf warrior or a Tark following him. He just goes up the ladder and starts to threaten Frodo. But at the sound of that cracking whip, Sam's rage becomes a fury. And I got to say, it reminds me a little bit of what we saw back at the end of book 4 when he confronts Shelob, right? He calls it, you brute, and he comes after her. He's just, I think the text says something like, it's the sort of fury that you'd expect from an animal protecting its mate, right? I mean, it's this sort of primal, you can't do this, I'm going to take you down sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And in moments of pure adrenaline and snap decisions, you revert back to that almost like you said, primal. And it's funny you say that because he follows Snaga up like a cat. So there is almost that sort of animalistic instinct there.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
It's very reminiscent of all of the sort of primal instincts that we've been talking about that Sam has been utilizing for the last, I guess it would probably be
time.
At this point.
Since Shelob's Lair, certainly.
Yeah.
In fact, I did just for fun pull up that text, and it's just real quickly. No onslaught more fierce was ever seen in the savage world of beasts, where some desperate small creature armed with little teeth alone will spring upon a tower of horn and hide that stands above its fallen mate.
Great memory on that mate portion. Yeah, that's awesome. It's the first 2 minutes of Finding Nemo. You just have to think about Marlin. Sam is Marlin in this.
Sam is Marlin. I love it.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
We get a quick look at the room that Sam sees. Again, the dungeon master of D&D describing the world. He pokes his head up, and you're right in the middle of it. It's large, it's round, there's this red lamp hanging, there's a window slit that faces west, very specific direction.
That's very interesting, and I think that's why it's dark, because the west is where the mountain range is, right? Because this is on the eastern side of those mountains.
It is indeed.
Yeah. And then there's something on the floor. It's a vaguely Frodo-shaped lump. And there's an orc standing over it, raising his whip. Well, now that would be a mistake with Sam, the mighty elf warrior, on the loose. Bad idea.
Yeah.
Your last mistake, Snaga.
I'm going to pull out some Gen Z lingo. Sam is about to go off.
Yes, he is. Yes.
And again, it's almost that primal thing. He's leaping across. He's got Sting, his metaphorical fang, if you will. And Snaga turns around just in time to get his hand removed from the arm. And
Snip.
This is that. Yeah. And this is sort of Sam's aure in Tuleva moment, but, in kind of miniature.
Well, of course, he's not Hurin. He's a hobbit.
Well, he is not. Are you going to use this moment as an excuse to read? You are, aren't you?
I am, because really any excuse I have to read the Aure in Tuleva moment is a good one. But Sam, really, there is a parallel here, and I want you to see this.
Oh, there is. Listen, I'm not begrudging you reading it. I'm just saying we've had a lot of Silmarillion comparisons.
That
in
is
this
true.
Very small portion.
That is true.
But it makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to read from that real quick. I'm not going to read all of the passage that I clipped here because I feel like, okay, we can probably keep moving. But last of all, Hurin stood alone. Then he cast aside his shield and wielded an axe two-handed. And it is sung that the axe smoked in the black blood of the troll guard of Gothmog until it withered. And each time that he slew, Hurin cried, Aure in Tuleva, day shall come again, which, by the way, can we be honest, refers us right back to the song of I will not say the day is done, nor bid the stars farewell. Go back to the Silmarillion. 70 times he uttered that cry, but they took him at last alive by the command of Morgoth. For the orcs grappled him with their hands, which clung to him still, though he hewed off their arms. Whenever their numbers were renewed, until at last he fell buried beneath them. And I'm just going to stop there. But Sam chopping off this guy's hand, very similar to Hurin chopping off the arms of these orcs. The day shall come again, very similar to I will not say the day is done. I had to.
It's a great parallel. I will not begrudge you that. That was quite good. And it's one of those moments where you're like, oh, Tolkien has themes. He's got ideas. He's got connections between all of this. And my goodness, but really, when you think about it, what's a hand to an orc, right? He's
that's a good point. It's just one hand. I got another.
Yeah, that's my life is pretty much worthless to the guy that hired me. My hand is probably worth less than my life, so I might as well, try my best. And he's angry, but he's desperate, so he charges Sam. And of course, Sam rolls probably below the.
He rolled a 1
class.
On this one.
He rolled a nat 1 on this one.
Yes,
he
did.
For all of you D&D aficionados.
Unfortunately, so did Snaga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can just see the perfect moment of, I rolled a 1. I miss. That's okay. I also rolled a 1.
There you
orc
go.
you were fighting is dead. He falls down
Snaga even had advantage, and he rolled a natural 1 and then a natural 1. Like the DM's like, you are hosed, man. Yeah. You're gonna trip and fall on the ladder, and well, you'll see what happens next turn. Yeah. I have to say that Tolkien's next line of narrative would usually tell me to be very concerned, right? We talked about earlier the sort of great horror sense that we saw. This line always freaks me out a little bit. Sam gave no more thought to it. This is one of those moments where if you're watching the horror movie and the guy goes, oh, good, he's gone. No, he's not, right? In a modern horror movie, Snaga's head shows up through the trap door again in a moment and comes and stabs Sam in the back.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with any other movies that potentially have a Lord of the Rings character falling a great distance and then coming back?
I'm afraid
later on?
my cinematic library is rather small, Don. You'll have to.
Well, when Frodo fights Gollum just outside of Shelob's cave in the Peter Jackson trilogy of Return of the King, Gollum falls down into the abyss, and we see him disappear, and we think, oh, well, he
must be gone.
He must be gone. And of course, in the movies, spoiler alert, he's not. However, in this particular case,
Snaga's going nowhere, as we'll find out. But of course, the reason why Sam gave Snaga no more thought here is lying on the ground in front of him, and it's Frodo. And that is where you're going to pick up.
He was naked, lying as if in a swoon on a heap of filthy rags. His arm was flung up, shielding his head, and across his side there ran an ugly whip wheel. "Frodo, Mr. Frodo, my dear," cried Sam, tears almost blinding him. "It's Sam. I've come." He half lifted his master and hugged him to his breast. Frodo opened his eyes. "Am I still dreaming?" he muttered. "But the other dreams were horrible." "You're not dreaming at all, master," said Sam. "It's real. It's me. I've come." "I can hardly believe it," said Frodo, clutching him. "There was an orc with a whip, and then it turns into Sam. Then I wasn't dreaming after all when I heard that singing down below, and I tried to answer. Was it you?" "It was indeed, Mr. Frodo. I'd given up hope almost. I couldn't find you." "Well, you have now, Sam. Dear Sam," said Frodo, and he lay back in Sam's gentle arms, closing his eyes like a child at rest when night fears are driven away by some loved voice or hand. Sam felt that he could sit like that in endless happiness, but it was not allowed. It was not enough for him to find his master. He had still to try and save him. He kissed Frodo's forehead. "Come, wake up, Mr. Frodo," he said, trying to sound as cheerful as he had when he drew back the curtains at Bag End on a summer's morning. Frodo sighed and sat up. "Where are we? How did I get here?" he asked. "There's no time for tales till we get somewhere else, Mr. Frodo," said Sam. "But you're in the top of that tower you and me saw from away down by the tunnel before the orcs got you. How long ago that was, I don't know. More than a day, I guess."
Wow, that was that is quite a passage. There's so much emotion packed in there, and I'm really looking forward to talking through this. You did a good job of making that such an intimate moment in your reading, Don. So thank you.
Well, it is. It's such a quiet moment in what is otherwise chaos and fear and terror. It's that, like, if you've ever felt anxiety over a long period of time, the relief when you find out that it's over is so overwhelming.
It is, yeah.
Like, I would not have faulted Tolkien here if he lingered on this portion for way longer, because, you got to think, again, going back to World War I, how many friends do you think Tolkien held in his arms as they were hurt or injured or suffering from what we now know as PTSD, but was then referred to as shell shock? Mm-hmm. It's an emotional and very trying time for anybody.
Absolutely.
And let alone these two, 3-foot tall hobbits.
Yeah, exactly. Tiny, harmless creatures, really. Dowdy at bay, but not exactly mighty warriors.
No.
So we start that passage with a brief description of Frodo's physical state, right? He is not in great shape right now. He's naked. It says it's like he's fainted on this pile of disgusting rags. I mean, it's just vile. And his arm is up and it's protecting his head, right? As you would if somebody was striking you with a whip, like hit me anywhere else but my face and head, right? You always got to protect your head. And with evidence of that previous whip strike, we got a visible wheal on his side. Now, folks, a wheal, W-E-A-L, that just means a red swollen mark left on flesh by a blow. So it's that raised welt. I didn't do the etymology, but I'd be shocked if welt and wheal didn't have this very similar etymology.
Sounds about right. And then, of course, we get Sam's reaction, seeing all of this physical Frodo, happenings. Sam, tears flooding his eyes. He calls out to his master, to Frodo. And Sam, of course, seeing the physical state of Frodo, tears flooding his eyes, he calls out to his master. He calls to Frodo. He says, he's here. And this is just such a beautiful reunion after such heartache. And, keep in mind, we're doing this in podcast form, but the people that were reading this as it was coming out, they had to wait all that time to figure out, oh my gosh, what's what's going to happen?
Right.
And Sam is...
I mean, the volume of the Two Towers ended with the line, Frodo was alive, but taken by the enemy.
Yeah.
And then you had to wait a year to find out what happened.
Thank you, Peter Jackson, for not making us have to wait.
That's a fair point, yeah.
And Sam, he lifts Frodo up off the floor and he just hugs him as Frodo's eyes open. And I love that part because it's signs of life.
Yes, exactly. And then Frodo, quite understandably, wonders and even asks aloud, am I dreaming? But then he sort of answers his own question, doesn't he? When he talks about how the previous dreams were so awful, but this one isn't awful. You know, this is a great dream. So it maybe I'm not dreaming. And Sam confirms that. No, this is no dream. I'm here. I'm absolutely real. But that's exactly what a dream Sam would say to an asleep Frodo, wouldn't it?
I feel as though Dream Sam and Awake Sam are pretty much the same person.
Yeah,
He's
pretty
about
much
as consistent as you get.
I mean, if you're having a dream of Sam and you say, Sam, am I dreaming? Do you think Sam's going to say, yes, you absolutely are dreaming. I'm not really here. No, even Dream Sam is going to say, of course I'm real. Fortunately, he is real. So
yeah, and we get confirmation that this is not a dream. Of course, Frodo grabs onto Sam as though to confirm that it is real, and it recalls the immediate past. We've got Snaga whipping him, Sam reappearing, and then a few moments ago responding to Sam's singing of that verse.
And I love this next bit, right? Sam acknowledges that he'd almost given up hope. And there's two things in this phrase that I want to talk about. First, I love it because giving up hope is different from losing hope. This isn't like all hope had almost left me, right? This isn't a passive voice. This is an active voice. I'd almost given up hope. And it reflects the fact that there is a choice, even in this darkness, to hold on to hope or to give up that hope. And I think that speaks volumes right there about the nature of hope. But then the other thing I love is that even though as bad as it was, Sam still hadn't completely given up hope. He'd almost given up hope, but not completely. And given the circumstances, that is amazing.
Absolutely. And I'm, again, going to reference back to the choices of Master Samwise. And maybe it's an unconscious choice at this point. The choice to hold on to hope despite, as you said, all of the circumstances surrounding him.
100%.
And of course, we've got, Frodo rests in the fact that Sam, his dear Sam, has found him. And I love this moment. He lays back in Sam's arms and closes his eyes. And what a beautiful moment that is. And the comparison of a child whose bad dreams are driven away by a loved one. And that is what a poignant moment.
That really is. And of course, Tolkien would understand exactly what that means and what that's like. I know what that's like. I mean, my kids are 11 and 9. They're mostly past the point of those bad dreams, but not entirely. And I can certainly look back to, 4 or 5 years ago and imagining and remembering the sort of peace and calm that either one would have when I've had the privilege of comforting them after a bad dream and then just lying next to them as they drift back to that safe and kind of nightmare-free sleep. It is exactly that. It is that same thing as Frodo here he is in the midst of a terrible place where you'd think your first reaction would be to wake up and be as alert as possible because you are in danger for every second you're in this place. But what does he do? After he's opened his eyes and confirmed that Sam is real, he lays back in his arms and closes his eyes. He rests in that peace. It is beautiful.
Yeah, there's something very, very telling about the choice of words that I think Tolkien uses here in that he is resting. He knows the journey's not over yet. He doesn't give up. He doesn't surrender. He just let me close my eyes. This is the most hopeful equivalent of 5 more minutes. I just need the snooze button one more
just
time.
Just 5 more minutes, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah, but almost, I don't even mean it in a comical way. I mean just like, let me recharge.
Got to gather myself, and now I can, because the whole time before I was preparing to die.
Yeah,
being threatened and beaten and all of these things. Yeah,
this is the moment I think of the most when I think of the phrase Frodo wouldn't have gotten very far without Sam.
Yes, 100%.
This right here is. There's something to be said about Sam pushing Frodo on to the next part of the journey, on and on and on. But just for this brief moment, I think without Sam here, even if all of the orcs die, Frodo is I don't know if
I
I can
agree.
do this. I don't know if I can go on.
If Shagrat killed Snaga and then
Mm-hmm.
so that there are literally no other orcs, and then Shagrat leaves with the Mithril coat to go get slaughtered by Sauron. So there's nobody there. All Frodo has to do is wake up and go. I don't think he does. But part of that, though, is because of what we find out in the next little bit, right? Because in his mind, all hope is lost.
Exactly. And I so identify with Sam in this moment. His heart's only desire is just to sit here like this in this happiness that is, however short-lived or ill-begotten. He knows they have to go.
Yeah, he wants to marinate in this moment, but it's not an option.
Let's just sit here. Let's live. But of course, he kisses Frodo's forehead and tries to sound cheerful and happy, but he knows he has to go.
Time to wake up, Mr. Frodo. It's a bright and sunny day. Let's get outside and no, he is really trying to do that. And you can tell because Frodo opens his eyes and he's still disoriented, right? Where am I? How did I get here? I mean, a moment ago, he at least understood some things. Now he seems even more confused than before. Sam, with a bit of wisdom here, really says, look, this isn't the time to talk about those things, right? We got to get out of here first. But then he does sort of make the mistake of giving Frodo enough to start his mind thinking about all this, doesn't he?
Just a little bit, including where they are right now, it's the equivalent of, wow, look at that really big, scary thing over there. I really hope we don't go in that direction a day later.
Surprise, that's where we are.
Here. Yeah. We're here. We are here. And the thought, we get a little bit of the timeline, that it's been at least a day. And keep in mind, it was the morning of the 13th when they escaped Shelob's lair.
Right.
And Frodo was stung. He was unconscious, captured by orcs. It is now late in the evening of March 14th. The timeline says they escape on the 15th. So it is conceivably very late on the 14th.
Almost certainly, yeah. Probably very close to the end of the calendar day, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
It would be sunrise.
Exactly. Because we'll see in the next, well, not in the next reading, but next week as we finish the chapter, we'll see that Sam does take the time to go and find the things that they need to then go and escape, right? The orc armor and things.
Right.
And that takes some time, but it doesn't take 12 hours. So it's clearly very late at night on the 14th. So it's been a day and a half at least since they got out of Shelob's lair. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do the last reading of the chapter. I'm sorry, the last reading of the episode. I'm not going to read the rest of the chapter.
You're not quite done yet. You're not quite done yet, my friend.
Only that, said Frodo. It seems weeks. You must tell me all about it if we get a chance. Something hit me, didn't it? And I fell into darkness and foul dreams, and woke and found that waking was worse. Orcs were all round me. I think they had just been pouring some horrible burning drink down my throat. My head grew clear, but I was aching and weary. They stripped me of everything, and then two great brutes came and questioned me until I thought I should go mad, standing over me, gloating, fingering their knives. I'll never forget their claws and eyes. You won't if you talk about them, Mr. Frodo, said Sam. And if we don't want to see them again, the sooner we get going, the better. Can you walk? Yes, I can walk, said Frodo, getting up slowly. I'm not hurt, Sam. Only I feel very tired, and have a pain here. He put his hand to the back of his neck above his left shoulder. He stood up, and it looked to Sam as if he was clothed in flame. His naked skin was scarlet in the light of the lamp above. Twice he paced across the floor. That's better, he said, his spirits rising a little. I didn't dare to move when I was left alone, or one of the guards came. Until the yelling and fighting began. The two big brutes, they quarreled, I think, over me and my things. I lay here terrified, and then all went deadly quiet, and that was worse. Yes, they quarreled, seemingly, said Sam. There must have been a couple hundred of the dirty creatures in this place. A bit of a tall order for Sam Gamgee, as you might say. But they've done all the killing of themselves. That's lucky, but it's too long to make a song about till we're out of here. Now what's to be done? You can't go walking in the Black Land and not but your skin, Mr. Frodo. They've taken everything, Sam, said Frodo. Everything I had. Do you understand? Everything! He cowered on the floor again with bowed head as his own words brought home to him the fullness of the disaster, and despair overwhelmed him. Quest has failed, Sam. Even if we get out of here, we can't escape. Only elves can escape. Away out of Middle-earth, far away over the sea. If even that is wide enough to keep the shadow out. Oh, poor Frodo. Oh, man, poor Frodo.
Heartbreaking yet
It
again.
is.
This sad little hobbit is just breaking all our hearts.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And, I don't really blame him, though. He can hardly believe it's been longer than a day. It feels like it's been, weeks since he's been captured. And, well, I'm sure he wants Sam to eventually tell him more. He thinks about those details.
Yeah.
And it's not fun.
No, he can't help but recall them, right, as his memory starts to return. He was hit, right? He describes himself as being hit by something. Of course, that would be Shelob's stinger, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then he fell into darkness and had these terrible dreams, which presumably would have been caused or at least exacerbated by the poison coursing through his veins,
any sort of thing that is toxic, that is not meant to be in the body, it's going to affect your mental facilities as well as your physical stuff. And there have been some...
It's like the worst hangover possible. I mean, alcohol is a poison. It's a tasty poison sometimes, but it is toxic to the body. So
bourbon. Anyway, we were talking about something. We were talking about something else.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he talks about the dreams, and then he talks about being awake actually being worse than those terrible dreams, because of course he wakes up and he's surrounded by orcs. And then he mentions this drink, right? This, how does he put it? Horrible drink. He's talking about the same orc draft that they used on Merry and Pippin back in book 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even the same effects, right? How
for sure.
It sharpens his mind, but he feels terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, which, is pretty much just a description of an orc. They're sharp, they're fast, they're predators, but they feel just like...
For a minute, I thought you were going to say that's how bourbon makes you feel.
I'll
trust you on this one.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have to think of a clever way to describe how bourbon makes me feel as I read this next portion, because he remembers some very specific details.
Yeah, he does.
He's stripped of all his possessions. He's questioned. He's threatened. Shagrat and Gorbag, they're all like, "What are you doing? You blah 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 blah." Because
that's what orcs do.
They're aware that halflings have some sort of
there's
significance, but there's something going on. Just not sure what yet.
Yeah. So Sam suggests they get moving, right? I mean, you can't forget about these terrible orcs if you keep talking about these terrible orcs. So let's move away from these terrible orcs.
So remember, Frodo can walk, but he's exhausted. He's hurt from Shelob's sting. Because remember, Shagrat explained to Gorbag, this is back in The Choices of Master Samwise, when she's hunting, she just gives them a dab in the neck and they go as limp as a boned fish. And even explains why Frodo would feel, not well afterwards. He says, "This little filth, he'll wake up in a few hours, and beyond feeling a bit sick for a bit, he'll be all right. Or would be if Lugburs would let him alone. And of course, beyond wondering where he is and what's happening to him."
Which is exactly what happens, right? He wakes up and wonders where he is and what's happened to him. And he is sick for a bit, right? And as he walks around, he starts to feel better. He'll be all right. Yeah. So Frodo does start to walk around. He is feeling better, and that sort of causes his spirits to lift just a bit. This is a good thing. He recalls the fighting from his perspective. We've already seen it from Sam's. I love this, right? He remembers specifically Shagrat and Gorbag quarreling over him and his loot, all while he lay on the ground, like terrified to even move, right? Anything I do is just dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's sort of the conjoining of the two stories, as Sam confirms that, yes, that is what happened. There was a big fight. A couple hundred orcs managed to kill each other. However convenient that may have been to the plot, but, it saves Sam the effort of having to kill a couple hundred.
It would have been a very long chapter of watching Sam kill 100 and some odd orcs as he makes his way up the stairs.
You know what, though? I don't doubt that there's a first or second or third draft laying somewhere in a closet somewhere where Tolkien just goes, and then he stabbed one, and then a second, and then a third, and then a fourth, and then the Tulkas from one of the Valar comes down. And I'm kidding, of course, but it would be quite the sight.
That would be Sam sort of inspired by or almost possessed by Tulkas and just running around and smashing them off. Forget Sting. He's just punched them off the staircases. Boom, boom, boom. And you got one of them, doing a little The little, the famous, what's
The
the scream?
Wilhelm
The
scream.
Wilhelm scream. There you go. You got to have an orc doing a Wilhelm scream.
All that to say, Sam doesn't have to do any of that.
No killing involved, right?
I would rather lose a hand than die. So, it's the lesser of two evils, really.
Let's see how Snaga feels about that in a moment. He's got some opinions there.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's making a song of it, but he's not. Sam's not about to write that song right now.
It's more like he's put making a song on his to-do list, but he's not going to actually make the song right now, right?
Let me just put that in my iPhone reminders. All right.
Let me set a ringer for a week from now. Yeah,
ringer. Anyway.
What am I? Is that like showing my Gen X nature that I just set a ringer?
No, it's just a pun on Lord of the Rings.
Oh wow, I missed it, man.
I mean, it's also a pun on your age. But listen, you're the one pointing out your own age.
You mean like the rings
now.
around the tree kind of thing? Is that what you mean?
Listen, you said that, not me. I haven't made an old joke.
I make fun of myself
today.
And my age more often than you do these days, which is probably just as well.
You are the one that broke your body a couple of months ago.
That is
so
fair. But I broke it running a 40-yard dash and winning. So there is that.
Hey, Alan, I don't necessarily know if winning the race in that situation.
No, I know. It really does. I would have gladly, trust me. I would happily give my plate and 8 screws holding my collarbone together in exchange for the loss. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, okay, if we're going to make a song, we're going to write the song with our clothes on. So we got to get you out of being naked, right?
Hang on, though. You can't tell me that, like, Freddie Mercury or Gene Simmons or, any one of those legendary rock stars didn't write a song or two naked.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Mick Jagger probably wrote half his songs naked.
Heck, you know what? I'll say this. This may be a hot take. Mm-hmm. I bet you J.R.R. Tolkien probably wrote some of those songs in his underwear, at the very least.
Wow, that is a bold statement, Cotton. Let's see how that works out for you.
I'm sticking to it. Let me know in the comments section. Come find me on TikTok and fight me on this. I'm going to stick to my guns on this one.
All right. So Sam, at least, is convinced we got to get Frodo some clothes. Frodo is not thinking about clothes at the moment. His whole point is clothes don't matter anymore. Nothing matters anymore. The orcs took everything. He is clearly referencing, but not naming, which I find interesting, the ring. And in doing that, Frodo is suddenly and overwhelmingly struck by the fullness of the meaning of this loss.
Yeah, this is the moment, I think, that sort of parallels Sam, almost kind of similar to Boromir and Faramir in the Temptation of the Ring, where Sam is holding on to that hope. He had almost given up, but now, for Frodo, the quest is over. Even if they can get out of here, they'll never actually escape.
Yeah.
Sauron's going to win. This is inevitable. He has the ring, and, only the elves can sort of escape all of this. This is just their fate, their doom, really, to die. Because Frodo is more or less beside himself. The quest is over, and even if we can get out of here, we're never going to escape. This is Sauron's inevitable victory now that he has the ring. Because keep in mind, only the elves can do that. Assuming the sea is wide enough to protect them.
And it's interesting that Frodo says that because, of course, we know that the sea is wide enough in this case because, first of all, even if it was just the sea, the Valar were powerful enough to defeat Melkor, and Sauron is less powerful than Melkor was. Ergo, they can stop him. But more importantly, by this point, right, after the downfall of Numenor, Arda is made spherical and Valinor is removed from the circles of the world. It literally is the straight road, essentially going through the heavens, going through the air, and leaving the globe of the earth in order to get to Valinor. So yes, the sea in this case, because it is not actually the sea, it is the straight road, is certainly wide enough to protect the Valar from Sauron and his inevitable victory in Middle-earth. But only elves can escape away out of Middle-earth, far away over the sea. If even that is wide enough to keep Barlaman and the mailbag away. What does Barlaman have for us tonight, Don? They just keep on coming, man.
They do. I'll give you that one.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that
it's
one.
Late enough into the episode. I'll tip of the cap to you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Because of course we do have something tonight. This is from Evan B in Norway. Mm-hmm. He says, while Sauron managed to sway Saruman to his side using a palantir, Denethor never submitted, even if he did fall to despair under Sauron's influence. So,
Right.
how is it that a Maya with several millennia of experience with the ways of Sauron and the express mission of defeating him was swayed so completely, but Denethor, who is a mere man, albeit with the blood of Westerness, could resist him for long, that the only way to take him out was to lead him into despair? Could it be that Denethor's right to use the Palantir made him more resilient? Or is there something inherent in these characters that make one more resilient than the other? Alan, go ahead.
I don't know if resilience is the key. It's not an unreasonable question, Evan, and I actually think it's worth taking a bit more time to answer this by digging into Unfinished Tales first. Though I have to say, if he's from Norway, that just brings me back to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Slart of Artfast, who, of course, made the fjords in Norway. Do you remember that guy? You remember Slart of Artfast? He made that joke when he met Arthur Dent. Dent, as in the late Arthur Dent. Anyway, I love that book. I got to read it again one of these days. All right.
Stay tuned for our next podcast, A Podcaster's Guide to the Galaxy,
there
where Alan and I read the entirety.
I love the name of that, though, Don.
Thank you.
I'm gonna, if I do a Guide to the Galaxy podcast at some point, which is not totally impossible, I might actually have to call it that.
You know what? You go right ahead, but I regret to inform you, Alan. I just did a 2-second Google search.
Out. Yeah, that's what
it's
I thought.
Already out.
Of course. Well, that's okay. You and I are going to, if I'm going to do another show one of these days, it's going to be on Foundation, and you and I are going to do it together because we've already said that's what we're doing.
Done.
Yeah. All right. So, Evan, sorry. I'm coming back to your answer, I promise. And no Slart of Artfast jokes.
He can't help himself.
No, I can't. In Unfinished Tales, in the chapter of the Palantiri, we learn a lot that will help you answer this question. Tolkien explains, in the case of Denethor, the steward was strengthened even against Sauron himself by the fact the stones were far more amenable to legitimate users, most of all to true heirs of Elendil, as Aragorn, but also to one with inherited authority, as Denethor, as compared to Saruman or Sauron. It may be noted, Tolkien continues, that the effects were different. Saruman fell under the domination of Sauron and desired his victory, or no longer opposed it. Denethor remained steadfast in his rejection of Sauron, but was made to believe that his victory was inevitable, and so fell into despair.
Exactly. And the legitimate user bit, that is important, though. Yeah. It's not the only thing.
No, but
that
it is
chapter,
key.
Right. This chapter gives us a little bit more information, specifically 2 reasons why Denethor's outcome is so different from Saruman's. First, Tolkien says, Denethor was a man of great strength of will and maintained the integrity of his personality until the final blow of the apparently mortal wound of his only surviving son.
Yeah.
And then second, we come back to that authority. The Honor Stone was Denethor's by right, and nothing but expediency was against his use of it in his grave anxieties. He must have guessed that the Ithiel Stone was in evil hands and risked contact with it, trusting his strength. His strength was not entirely unjustified. Sauron failed to dominate him and could only influence him by deceit, which is what led him to despair. Tricky, though not false, visions.
Tricksy visions, precious.
Yeah, correct.
Exactly.
The stones could not lie, right? I mean, Tolkien says influence him by deceits. And what he means is by showing him things that are true, but not all of the things that are true, right? The stones could be made to show things without that full context, even though they couldn't show things that were totally false, right? He couldn't project an image into Denethor, into the stone that Denethor was using that was completely made up, but he could show something that lacked context, like the Black Fleet, right? Aragorn's on that fleet. I don't even know if Sauron knows that, but certainly it would be useful to Denethor if he knew that. But yeah, so the stones couldn't lie. They could show those things without context. Ultimately, that's what led to Denethor's despair. Though I would add that maybe, and this is just speculative, but I think it's one of those common sense things. There's one other advantage, if you want to call it that Denethor had over Saruman. And that, believe it or not, was his mortality, his shorter lifespan. It seems, honestly, pretty unlikely to me that Saruman fell to Sauron's domination in less than the span of a single human lifetime, even a partially Numenorian descended lifetime. It may have taken centuries for a powerful Maya like Saruman to fall, time that a mere human wouldn't have. Combine that with his stubbornness and his determination and his absolute, like, so much pride about Gondor. He could never, ever wish it to fall. So he's never going to succumb the way that Saruman did.
Right. They're both falling to Sauron's, machinations, but for different reasons.
Good word, sir.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
word.
you.
I like that.
Thank you. It is truly, the Sauron's main ability is to take the truth and twist it.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, through Denethor's, call it resilience. Well, actually, before we get to that, what about this idea of the Palantir making Denethor more resilient, though? Because I don't think there's much to that. I mean, certainly the text doesn't really suggest that he is resilient.
I think, in fact, it's actually Denethor's resilience inherently that makes him harder to overcome from the stone.
Exactly.
Not the other way around. It's
because the stones are not evil themselves inherently. It's just a simple messenger stone meant to convey, thoughts and visions.
Well, that's about it, because they can't convey sound, right?
Yeah, there's no sound.
And there's no scratch and sniff Palantir, so.
Oh, that'd be fun. Could we get Feanor to just make, that's true.
Yeah. Sauron's place is not known for its hygiene.
I bet Shelob's cave smells awful.
The noisome smell. Yeah.
Oh, and the mines of Moria, like the Chamber of Mizarble, like all of the. Oh God, now I'm just.
Thanks a lot. I still have to eat dinner tonight. I really appreciate you, Don.
It's not my fault you live on the West Coast. All right, smells aside, Alan, do we have time for another one?
I think I better call it for tonight. We're going to go ahead and move this next question to episode 308. I'll give you a hint, though, Don, because you're going to have to start thinking about it. It's about the new shadow that you talked about when we were in Questions After Nightfall several weeks back.
I love the new shadow.
I know.
I love the idea.
That's going to be good stuff.
Oh my gosh.
For now, though, folks, that does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please be sure to join us again next week when Frodo is definitely not interested in laying peacefully in Sam's arms.
As nice as it might be, no, because those are thieving arms.
That's right. Give me that ring back, you terrible thief.
Thief! Gandhi, we hates it forever.
All right. We got some people to thank. Alan and I would like to thank the members of Team PPP, editor Jordan Rannells, who I assure you has put in way more work this episode than any other I have appeared on.
I don't know about that. Questions After Nightfall episodes require a lot of work.
We don't talk about that.
No, we don't.
We don't talk about those.
Nope.
All right. Barliman, Becca Davis.
No.
Social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, graphic artist Megan Collins, and website guru Phil Dean.
And please take a minute to check out theprancingponypodcast.com. That's where you're going to find show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get PPP merch, including the all-new chapter art from Megan, the cool Snaga hand.
Oh, I didn't know it was out.
You'll have to show you that. Yeah.
That's so cool. You'll also want to visit our library page. The Prancing Pony Podcast is, after all, a podcast about books. So if you're interested in any of the books we've mentioned, including the fan fiction that
including the Atlas of Middle-earth. What other books did we mention? We mentioned all three of the Great Tales. We mentioned the Fall of Numenor. Yeah. That's called a palate cleanse, sir, because you mentioned Archive of Our Own, so I'm just trying to help people. The books we're actually linking to. Yeah. If you do that, if you mention those things on the show, there will be links for it in our library. And I'll just tell you what I usually let Don say, which is we do get a small amount. And by that, I mean a token amount of compensation when you buy those books. So
just
we thank
do
you
it
for that. Yeah.
Give them money. Yeah,
please do.
Give them money.
We also want to thank our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. And this is a long list of names, as it always is. And we're so grateful to every one of them. I'm going to start with DeMay in Alaska, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Joseph in Michigan, Kathy from North Carolina, Carlos in California, Brian in the UK, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Ben in Minnesota, Anthony in Texas, Karen in the UK, and Zaksu in Illinois.
There's also Sarah in New Jersey, Joshua in Massachusetts, Lucy in Texas, Erica in Texas, Carson in Oklahoma, Keith in Alabama, Vivian in California, James in Massachusetts, Anne in Kentucky, Sean in New Jersey, Mason in California, Maureen from Massachusetts, Christiana from Ohio, John from Japan, Olivia in London, Jackson in Tennessee, and Robert in Arizona. Thank you all so much for your support.
Indeed. Thank you.
And make sure you don't miss an episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. You can subscribe now through Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and, well, most of all, the songs you'd sing to find your best friend after they've been captured by orcs to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want your voice literally heard, well, just send us audio of your question. Visit podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Meantime, while Alan and I think of the songs we would sing to each other for this closing bit, please be sure to still email the question to Barleyman, though, because even though Barleyman's been a lot more reliable lately, there's still a lot of mail to sort through. We try to get to you and your questions just as soon as we are able.
Indeed. As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
For the $6 Million Man, I have been Don Marshall, and if you'll excuse me, I am going to go practice my whip skills to join a traveling Renaissance fair. Good night to all.